Maryland police have put protesters outside Supreme Court justices' homes on notice. They say anyone violating the statute on disorderly conduct may be arrested. The Montgomery County Police Department posted a tweet saying that they are committed to preserving First Amendment rights of all individuals, but there are laws for what is allowed. The Maryland County, which is home to several Supreme Court justices, does not allow picketing outside of a residence. But the law does not prohibit people from marching in a residential area without stopping at any particular residence. Picketing may also not disturb the tranquility of the home, harass or emotionally disturb residents. With the inflation rate jumping to near record highs, is there a way out from here? Congresswoman Lisa McClain sat down with me earlier to discuss. Congresswoman Lisa McClain, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Congresswoman, 9.1 inflation exceeding expectations. What would you say are the primary factors driving this?
A lack of understanding of economics and how economics work from this administration. When you put $3 trillion of printed money into our economy, this is not a surprise as to what we're seeing. And we all predicted it. I didn't realize it would come as fast as it has, or as sudden and as steep as it has. But it's cause and effect. Inflation is, simply put, too many dollars chasing too few goods. And the most concerning, I think, about that, we don't have a plan on how to get out of it. And part of the reason is because if you take a look at Biden's economic team, there's nobody there who has ever run a business. You have activists, you have professors. There's a big difference between signing the front of a check and signing the back of a check. And the biggest thing I would share is we need a remedial crash course, or this administration needs a remedial crash course on basic economics.
So you just touched upon it in terms of the plan. Of course, would like to hear what the president's plan is. Is there anything that you think Congress could be doing or should be doing to help ease the inflation?
Well, first and foremost, we have a spending problem, right? So we have got to get our spending under control, number one. Number two, we can incentivize American businesses, business here in America. I think we should start with energy, right? Prior to this administration, we were a net exporter of energy. We need to open up and begin to drill here in America. See, the issue that the Green New Deal people don't understand, or this administration doesn't understand, we're still using the same amount of oil. The difference is we're not drilling here on American soil. We're asking our adversaries to drill. Well, that helps fund their countries, not ours. That would stimulate, one, our economy. And again, you've heard this, energy independence is security, right? Think about this as well. With our oil reserves, we've depleted over 50% of our oil reserves, and we've given them to China. What is going on? Tell me how that helps America, helps drive down our inflation. And really, if you want to take a look at green new energy, with the Biden administration, we are dirtier. I think the statistic that I saw was we burn 23% more coal, and we are dirtier under this administration. We've got to get back to American oil, American energy, and American businesses.
There's reports that the president is thinking about rolling back Trump-era tariffs in order to potentially ease inflation. Reports say that the results of doing that would be minimal. What is your take?
China is clearly our biggest threat. And China is a threat to us, in my opinion, on three levels: militarily, educationally, and economically. Again, we need to focus on American companies, American businesses and incentivize doing business in America. And we need to go back to working with our allies, not our adversaries, our allies, because we are weak right now around the world. I've been around the world, I've met with various leaders, and we look weak on the world stage. And anyone who doesn't believe that is just plain not opening their eyes, and they have a clear distortion of reality. We need to get back to doing business in America with American companies and incentivizing business here. And we need to send a clear message to our adversaries that the human rights violations, all of the negative actions, we'll say, with all the bad actors, we're not tolerating that anymore.
Congresswoman Lisa McClain, thank you.
Thank you.
Citing a lack of action by the federal government, a group of local and national leaders urged states to use their power to declare an invasion at the southern border. What are they saying, and what challenges does the argument face? NTD's Iris Tao has more.
States do not have to be a passive victim of a failed federal government.
Accusing the Biden administration of failing to address the border crisis, more than a dozen Republican lawmakers and sheriffs from Texas are urging border states to take matters into their own hands.
I'm going to tell you the way it is. There is an invasion.
That by declaring an invasion by drug cartels at the southern border, which should give them additional powers to deport illegal immigrants.
And just in the past few months, our office was involved in seizing more than 1 million fentanyl pills just in Arizona alone. Enough fentanyl to kill the entire state of Arizona and Washington, D.C. The Constitution recognizes the power and the ability of states to protect themselves from an invasion. And that's what Arizona, Texas, and other states need to do.
The Friday call on Capitol Hill comes after multiple Texas counties declared the border situation an invasion and called on Governor Greg Abbott to do the same. But critics say that would be racist and would also equate those seeking asylum with military attackers.
But they're being sent by the cartel.
Yet a sheriff from Texas says such a declaration targets the cartels, which he says are sending in illegal immigrants purposefully.
And the border is being cluttered by the cartel. It's being cluttered by these large groups of people that tie up the Border Patrol, tie up the state resources, tie up the county resources, and therefore the cartel gains the operational control of the border.
And I asked Congressman Jody Arrington for his thoughts. Do you think such a move of declaring an invasion can stand its legal ground?
I think the Constitution is clear and explicit. And in Article 1, when there's imminent danger to those states, they have the right of self-defense.
We've devoted our teams.
Meanwhile, President Biden this week touted efforts to disrupt fentanyl and human trafficking, while urging more help from Mexico. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
Last year, we covered bipartisan legislation that was introduced called the Level the Playing Field Act 2.0. It aims to protect American businesses from Chinese steel dumping. But the bill's co-sponsor, Congressman Bill Johnson, now says the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is opposing this bill. He joins us now to discuss. Congressman Bill Johnson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Congressman, I have spoken to you before about your bill, the Leveling the Playing Field Act. It's a substantive bill that would counter China's unfair trade practices. The Chamber of Commerce is opposing your bill here. If you could tell us, refresh our memory, what your bill would actually do and why you think the Chamber is against it.
Well, I think the Chamber is against it because they become the Wall Street Chamber of Commerce instead of the Main Street Chamber of Commerce, because they're more interested in supporting China than they are in supporting the American workers. What this bill would do, it basically two primary things, but it's designed to give the U.S. Department of Commerce and other federal agencies some additional arrows in their quiver in holding China accountable. One, it would make it easier to go after repeat offenders for violating the anti-dumping laws. But then the other thing is it would go after China for circumventing the anti-dumping laws by going to countries like Vietnam setting up operations there and subsidizing those operations and working through a third-party country to do essentially the same thing that they're trying to do. We've got to put China on the sideline and put them in their lane if American workers and American businesses are going to benefit.
Congressman, you sort of touched upon it there. Is this a microcosm of what we've seen for the past decades, where Wall Street has gone full steam for profits in China while sacrificing American jobs and moral principles, for that matter, based on who the CCP is and what they do to their own people?
Well, in all fairness, I don't think the Chamber of Commerce is trying to help the CCP accomplish its goals, and I don't mean to imply that, but they are favoring the big, large corporations on Wall Street that are doing business in China, rather than looking out for the small manufacturer, the small industry players that dot the landscape around America. 60% of the jobs plus in America are produced by small business, and small businesses need the products like steel and aluminum and things like that. And if we don't support American workers, who is going to do that? I mean, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, essentially, they don't want tariffs, and they don't want us to be tough on trade with China, because it does not help those big, large international corporations that they're so closely aligned with.
Congressman, we're starting to see the CCP encroaching in various sectors, most recently close to our military installations by acquiring U.S. agricultural land. Most recently in North Dakota, 3 senators, Rubio, Kramer, and Hoeven, have just sent a letter calling for a national security review of this purchase. Is this something that you think would be important?
I think we definitely need to look at that. Look, I'm not a protectionist. I'm not a stick my head in the sand and not engage in the global economy. I'm not that mindset at all. But I do believe that we need to be very, very concerned about Chinese investments and Chinese purchases of land and businesses and facilities here in America. I just, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a big statement in the Constitution. At one time, at the initial founding of our country, it was life, liberty, and the owning of property. That's what that came from. And owning property and buying your own home or building a business yourself, that's very important. I'm not sure why we don't have a very, very rigorous review process for any foreign entity buying land and buying facilities, buildings, etc. here in the United States. And we've got to be very concerned about the Chinese government doing that.
Congressman, I think it's important to note about your bill as well before I let you go here. It is bipartisan.
It is, yeah. I put that bill forward with Representative Sewell from Alabama, and it is a bipartisan bill. And I'm encouraged that if we can get organizations like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to stop our efforts to hold the Chinese accountable for its unfair trade practices, I think we'll get it across the finish line.
Congressman Bill Johnson, thank you.
Thank you.
2 senior GOP House members are probing TikTok over concerns that American user data could be accessed by its China-based parent company, ByteDance. ByteDance has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Congresswoman Kathy Rogers wrote on Twitter saying, quote, TikTok has gone on record numerous times claiming that they do not share Americans' user data with the Chinese government, CCP, or any Chinese state-owned entities. We now know that this is not the case. Rogers is carrying out the investigation into TikTok's data sharing practice jointly with Congressman James Comer. He is the ranking member of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform. Comer posted on Twitter saying that China acquiring Americans' biometrics and location data is a troubling, massive national security risk. The 2 lawmakers are asking for documents and communications between TikTok and ByteDance.